my God. What did I just see? Oh, what did I just see? Drew McIntyre. And guys, I know SmackDown was on the tape delay. It aired earlier tonight because it was in Burlington, Berlin, Germany. But I wasn't able to watch the VPN version of it live, so I just watched it as it aired on TV. And I wanted to prevent the spoilers because I've seen some people saying that Drew won, but I wanted to see with my own eyes to make sure it was legitimate. Drew McIntyre is the new WWE Undisputed Champion in the most oddest, craziest way possible. I mean, the way that he won was very unexpected. And man, I did not see that coming. And, it had been speculated, it was said that, Jacob Fatu was coming back, his return was imminent. But the fact that not only did he get involved in the match towards the end in the cage match, but he initially cost Cody in the match so Drew could escape the door to win the title was very unexpected. I did not see that coming. I would have much rather. I would have personally much rather have just had Drew win by himself, but I could see what they were going for here because you know, the belief, in real life, Jacob had some dental stuff going on. That's why he's been gone for a while. But the belief was that Drew, in storyline, that Drew was the guy who took him out. So initially he came out just as Drew was about to escape the door. Jacob Fatu comes in a hoodie and a mask and he attacks Drew McIntyre. Cody tries to stop him. He gets beat down by Jacob. Jacob just goes ham on him. And while he's doing this, Drew escapes the door and wins the WWE Undisputed title for a fourth time. I I I just cannot believe this. Well, really, it's his third undisputed championship reign, but he's a four-time world champion altogether because when he beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40 in the opener of Night 2, he won the World Heavyweight Championship on Raw, which is a different lineage that's only been around since 2023. They don't count that as a part of the one that existed before that from like 2002 to 2013. They count that as a different reign. But anyway, um, you know, wow, I gotta say, I did not expect that, and it definitely makes things even more interesting as we head, towards the Rumble. The crowd was fairly behind Drew. Like there were fans cheering for Cody when he came out. There were fans that were cheering for Cody, but he was also getting some boos too. He was getting mixed reactions. He was getting the Cena chant, the "Let's go Cody, Cody sucks." This three stages of hell, which, I do like that they show like each one, and I didn't realize like the fact that there's only been four previous three stages of hell matches. I felt like it was more than that, but when they were showing the pictures, Austin and Triple H, No Way Out 2001 was the first one. Then Triple H and Shawn Michaels Armageddon 2002 was the second one, and then the third one, um, which I didn't even know was a three stages of hell match, was Triple H and Randy Orton from the Bash in 2009. Or was that 2008? I think it said 2009. So Triple H has pretty much been in all of them except for the fourth one that they did, which was Cena and Ryback in Payback 2012. And so this is only the fifth one. So I do like that they showed the history of the three stages of hell matches. That we hadn't seen them in a long time. But this man, this is something that a lot of people are pushing for. Um, and the thing about it is, this feud has been dragging on well over you know it's almost 5 months now because it started after SummerSlam when Drew teamed up with Logan Paul against Cena and Cody. And Cody was a newly WWE Undisputed Champion at that time. He took him out on the side of the announce table. And so, they've been going at it ever since because they had their match at WrestlePalooza, which Cody won. It was very predictable. I'm not. I want to say they also wrestled before that at Clash in Paris, but then I want to say they didn't wrestle at Clash in Paris. I would have to go back to that one, but I, I'm not sure. I don't think they did. I think they didn't. They saved that for WrestlePalooza, and Cody won that match. And it was just too predictable. And then they had another match. They did have a match on SmackDown that Cody got himself disqualified in. That was like an impromptu WWE Undisputed Championship match. So it was just like Cody was just winning and winning and winning. And you almost kind of wonder, if they had done this when he was feuding with Kevin Owens last year, that would have made that feud, unpredictable because, him and Kevin went at it quite a few times. Um, before they had the blow off at the Rumble, but not as much as him and Drew. I mean, I think they only had a total of two matches if you count the Saturday Night's main event one they had, and then the one they had at the Rumble, which was the end of the feud. Um, but yeah, I mean, these guys have been feuding, since August, and they were supposed to face each other one on one in Survivor Series, but that ended up turning. They ended up he ended up being a part of the War Games match instead, you know, um, and so they had, because of Seth getting hurt, so that kind of changed plans with that. They did have a match on the November 1st Saturday Night's main event, which Cody won literally the same way he beat Kevin Owens the previous year by, doing a crossroads on a steel chair that Drew McIntyre introduced in the ring. But just seeing that so much, you just kind of, and to their credit, I mean, these last, even though the feud has dragged way longer than they needed to, they've really pushed the envelope, especially with Drew, messing with Cody's bus, you know, burning the picture that he had with his dad, you know, um, this thing where if Cody was to attack Drew, he would be stripped of the title, like Nick Aldis told him. Like, they really pushed the button, Drew trying to get in Cody's head, and especially what he did last week on SmackDown, with the picture of him and Dusty, and just how intense that was. They really, pushed the envelope with this feud that had grown stale just because of how long they were dragging it. If you minus, War Games, these guys pretty much, have been feuding for for a while, literally since August, which is crazy to think about. Um, but you know, um, it culminated into this, and I hope it doesn't lead to another singles match between these guys. But based on the announcement Nick Aldis put out, um, in regards to that championship, it definitely makes things even more interesting as we head into the Rumble. Um, like I said, I like unpredictability, and you know, I think the thing about this though is, does this mean that Cody's gonna be in a side feud with Jacob Fatu now, or I know Jacob's gonna want to go after Drew. That's who he initially got in the match for, but he also attacked Cody. So what does this mean with that? Does Cody, enter himself into the Rumble, which he hasn't been in since 2024? You know, does he try to like enter himself into the Rumble, or is he gonna, because he's not involved in the matches that they're doing next week, the singles matches, which was a big, really good announcement where he basically said, because everybody's trying to, fight to go against the world champion. They're going to do a series of single matches next week. Randy Orton and The Miz, Dragunov, and Sami Zayn. They're going to run that back. There were two other matches that they had announced for next week, and the winners of those matches are going to face each other in the Fatal 4-Way at Saturday night's main event. Oh yeah, Matt Cardona and Trick Williams was the other match that they announced, which would be very interesting because Trick Williams, he actually had his SmackDown debut tonight against Rey Fenix, and a really good match to open up the show after he interrupted Randy Orton at the start of the show, and Randy Orton took him out, and he had a really good match with Rey Fenix and got his dub in his first debut match on SmackDown. So you had that happened. He's gonna be wrestling next week against Matt Cardona, um, who did confront Cody backstage. He was, coming. He came back to WWE to come after that title to go for the championship. Same thing Sami Zayn said. So it makes all the sense in the world. All these guys are, you know, they're gonna do. Oh yeah, Damian Priest and Solo Sikoa is the other match that's taking place next week. So whoever wins those matches will face off at Saturday's main event, and then the winner of that match will face the champion at the Royal Rumble. I love it. I absolutely love it. Like that's a great way, to like SmackDown is, they've only been 2 episodes in, and they're cooking right now because I love it, and yeah, I love it. So this match here, they had the 3 stages of hell. Um, First match was a regular match. Drew got the victory after hitting a low blow on Cody, and after he exposed the ring buckle and hit the claymore on Cody to win. Cody was fired up at the start of the match. Was hitting Drew with everything. It was a lot of bumps in these matches. The false Kennedy where he did a dive on Drew from outside where the crowd was through a table. Drew kicked out of that. Ultimately, he took Drew out with a crossroads on the announce table, which it did break, and he pinned Drew for the 3 count. You know, and then it came down to the cage match, which ultimately um, was the match. Again, the unpredictability, because both guys didn't know how it was going to go. Cody was going to try to go to trifecta 3 crossroads. Drew blocked that. He did kick out of one of the crossroads. Cody did kick out of the Claymore he hit him with. All for Jacob Fatu to come out, and attack Drew. And I thought, from that maybe that Cody was going to get out, but Cody, I guess, he didn't want anybody to be involved, I guess, so he, pushed, even though it really didn't matter because it's a cage match, but, he pushed Jacob, and Jacob snapped and attacked him, and, ultimately it led to Drew winning. So very unpredictable now where they're going to go. I mean, I do still think ultimately Drew's, is not going to hold that title for very long. If he was to hold it to WrestleMania, I would be very shocked if they were to go in that direction. But considering the fact that, there's this whole thing with, Roman possibly facing Cody again for, the WWE Undisputed title for a 3rd time, especially after what happened to Survivor Series when they lost, and Roman said that, he never wanted the team. That was the last time they were teaming together. Um, you know, with that, you think maybe Cody would win the belt back, if not the Rumble, because he's not involved in those series of matches. So maybe, he wins the title back at the Chamber or something like that. It's very interesting now with Drew being champion, the direction they're going to go with this, because, they got these series of matches next week. Obviously, I don't think Cody is not going to be in the title picture at WrestleMania. Even if it was a multi-man match, even if it turned to a fatal 4-way or something, or triple threat, I do still think Cody's going to be involved. Where does Roman fit into all of this? He's supposed to be coming back soon. Does he now switch his attention, to CM Punk? It's very unpredictable. Where they're going to go with this now, because you really don't know. They're definitely keeping you guessing. I suspect, though, that Cody will still, wherever he wins the title, I don't think he's going to win the title back at the Rumble, because, again, he's not even involved in those series of matches that they're doing next week. So it'll be very interesting what they do with Cody here, especially with this Jacob Fatu situation. Very interesting how they go here. But like I said, the fans are definitely behind Drew, which I'm not really that surprised about. And they were cheering, when he won the championship. And good for Drew. I mean, like I said, it was a weird way for him to win the title, but he got that win at WrestleMania 40 against Seth, held the title for 5 minutes, and after he was taunting CM Punk attacked him and, Damon cashed in on it. But now he actually wins the title longer than 5 minutes because he was actually able to walk out and leave with the championship. So again, it's going to be very interesting where they go with this. This Roman still somehow incorporate himself on the SmackDown side of things, or does he turn his attention to Raw? Because it's not like he was based on how they ended Survivor Series. He looked more upset with Cody than he did, with CM Punk. CM Punk he actually helped to get up. Cody he wasn't happy with. So it definitely makes it very interesting, the direction they're gonna go heading into WrestleMania. Because you really don't know. You don't know if Cody is, they're just gonna like do something with him and because I'm gonna just say this now. I don't want to see another match with Cody and Drew. I really don't. Even though Drew finally, I think him winning the title is long overdue. If anything, if Seth didn't get hurt in his match against Cody at Crown Jewel, I personally think that, because Seth won that match, but I personally think if he didn't get hurt, if they were going to do Drew versus Cody at Survivor Series, they should have had Drew win the title then. And then that way he could have held it maybe to the Rumble. Cody wins it back, especially if they're going to do him and Roman or whatever they're going to do. Even him and Sammy at this point, because Sammy, could very well win the Rumble. Although, I don't know if that'll happen at this point, but there was this push at one point that he was one of the favorites to win it. But now it seems either Roman or Braun Breaker's going to win it. So it's even more unpredictable than it was last year because no one had, Jey Uso on their bingo cards of winning the Rumble last year. This year, you got either Roman could win it, Braun Breaker could win it. They're like the favorites to win it. And I think, Sami Zayn is the dark horse that can win it. He's the less likely option, but he's definitely the dark horse. But yeah, man, Drew McIntyre, I don't want to see him and Cody against each other anymore at this point. They've done the matches way too many times. But, it'll be very interesting to see which direction they go with this. He's the new WWE champion. I just cannot believe it. I saw the spoilers pop up on my YouTube, but I didn't want to look at anything until I saw it for myself to believe it was legitimate. And it is, I just, wow, I can't believe it. But, you had a lot of stuff to happen on the show. They gave this match an hour of commercial free. The last hour was just for this match, which was good. No commercials for this match. You had a lot of stuff to happen early in the show. Alexa had a match with actually 3 titles with Infinite because Carmelo Hayes retained his title against a returning Shinsuke Nakamura, which is a really good match between them for the United States Championship. Really good match. Julia retained her title against Alexa Bliss, which I didn't even realize her title was on the line in that match until they said she was still the champion. But I remember the backstage conversation that Alexa had with Nia in Lash Legends, and what they said there backstage about Charlotte using her and all that. But they had that was for the title, and Jordan Grace won her SmackDown debut match against Alba Fire. So it was a lot to happen on the show prior to this. But man, business is definitely about to pick up because this is WrestleMania season, and Be very interesting to see where they go from here. But that's pretty much it, guys. I think I pretty much covered all the main stuff. Oh yeah, they did do an 8-man tag match with the Wyatts and the MFTs, which the MFTs won after Solo took the lantern uh, of Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, and that distracted him and caused him to win the match. Does this mean that they get another title shot and win the titles? I don't know. I honestly don't really care at this point. But yeah, um, very interesting where they're going with things now. Drew is the champion. That's pretty much it, guys. So, Reverse place. I cannot believe it. Peace.